Hi guys, it's Hump Day lesson day. Thought I'd do a lesson. How you guys doing? So I got a couple things I want to teach today, which is amazing enough to my haters probably. I want to break it into two sections this lesson. If I even get to the second section, but if I do, I have another section after the first section. The first section is I want to do exotic scales and symmetrical scales and things that aren't normally considered tonal scales, but are still important and good. And in music, I think, it may not be covered all the time. And not the Mashon modes, because that's not, well, there's nothing wrong with those, but they're great. But I want to talk about ones that we all know, not just ones we look up if we Google that. So I'm going to talk about first, it may sound silly at first, but the chromatic scale. There's only one chromatic scale in 12th note music, but then again, there's actually quarter tone music where you would have 24 notes per octave, and then there would be two half step scales, but only one quarter step scale. So there'd be only one 24 note scale of all 24 quarter steps, and then there would be two 12 note scales of 12 half steps. But I'm not playing a 24 fret guitar, 24 note per octave guitar, and most people don't. So for 12 note music, there's only one chromatic scale. It's just all the consecutive semitones. I didn't do that very well, but whatever. The next one is the whole tone scale. There's actually two of those, and they're whole tones apart. Six notes in the scale, and they're all whole tones apart. And there's two of them. And in the chromatic scale, any of the 12 notes can be considered the root, and in the whole tone scale as well, any of the 6 notes of any whole tone scale can all be considered the root. So there's whole tone, whole tone, whole tone, whole tone, whole tone, whole tone. That's one of them. The other one. Okay. Then next is the diminished scale. There's two modes of this. There's the half step, whole step diminished scale, and there's the whole step, half step diminished scale, and there's only 3 diminished scales. So the E, in E, you could have the E half step, whole step diminished scale, and each of these scales has 8 notes. So in E half step, whole step diminished, you would have any one of the 4 notes in any one given diminished 7th arpeggio within the diminished scale can be considered the root. So in E half step, whole step diminished, half, whole, half, whole, half, whole, half, whole. You could have E be the root. It would be E half whole diminished, half whole, half whole, half whole, half whole. You could have G be the root. G, then half whole, half whole, half whole, half whole. You could have the root as B flat, half whole, half whole, half whole, half whole. That's right. And C sharp could be the root, half whole. And then there's the whole half, which is just the other mode of it. It could be in E would be whole, half, whole, half, whole, half, whole, half. I just there, did I? Whole, half, 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 whole. I goes up again. Whole, half, whole, half, whole, half, whole, half. That's correct. And then any of the 4 notes that make up a diminished arpeggio could be the root of that. So you could have E whole half, G whole half, B flat whole half, and C sharp whole half. And there's only 3 diminished scales in our 12-note system. And then there's the augmented scale, and this has 2 modes as well: half augmented and augmented half. There's only 4 of these in music, and they each have 6 notes. So in E, you could have E augmented half. Augmented scale would be augmented half, augmented half, augmented half, and so forth. And any one of the 3, any 3 of an augmented triad that's in that scale can be considered the root. So an E augmented half augmented scale could also be G sharp. First of all, it's E augmented half. Augmented would be augmented half, augmented half, augmented half. Could be G sharp augmented half, G sharp augmented half, augmented half, augmented half, or it could be C augmented half, C augmented half, augmented half, augmented half. And then there's the half augmented. That's the other mode of it. In E, that would be E half augmented, half augmented, half augmented, half augmented, half augmented, half augmented. Wait, I didn't say that right, but I played it right. Half augmented, half augmented, half augmented, half augmented, half augmented, augmented half. Yes. And that could be also G sharp half augmented, or C half augmented. So forth. And then once you get into after the next thing you would do is make you'd try to go for something that would have 5 notes in it, but that becomes a pentatonic scale, so it's not symmetrical anymore. And then back to 6 would be just a tritone, but that's not really a scale. 7 is the diatonic scale. So those are the main players in non-tonal but still musical scales. They're not they're not diatonic or pentatonic scales with only one root, but they're symmetrical and they do exist in music, and I like that. And then the last thing in this section is I want to talk about the enigmatic mode. This is a synthetic mode created by Giuseppe Verdi, composer of some century. Well, how could he not be? If he's a composer, he'd have to be in some century. And him and his friends were trying to figure out what would be the hardest scale to try to harmonize and make a contest out of it. And I think Giuseppe won when he thought of the enigmatic mode. So I want to explain the enigmatic mode. It's introduced by Joe Satriani in 1986 with his song Enigmatic off of Super with David. I mean, Not of This Earth. I was not thinking of what I was saying. Not of This Earth, 1986. One of the songs is called The Enigmatic, and it uses the enigmatic mode. Thank you, Joe, for introducing this to us. All right, here's what you do to get an augmented mode. Enigmatic mode. I should stop drinking what is in that soda. It's at JK. Start with a whole tone scale. That's simple. At first, an E whole tone scale. If I'm going to play, it's going to be an E right now. E whole tone scale. So I have E, F sharp, G sharp, B flat, C, G, and E. Now I'm going to do one more step. I'm going to make an E leading whole tone. That's when you add a major 7th to the whole tone scale. That makes a 7-note scale right there. So you go E, F sharp, G sharp, B flat, C, D, D sharp, E. I just made one of the whole tones has a note in between the whole tone to make 2 semitones in a row. So it's whole tone, whole tone, whole tone, whole tone, whole tone, half tone, half tone. We're halfway there, living on a prayer, well. Now all you got to do is flat the 2nd note in the scale. So now instead of having F sharp, I'm going to make an F. So now I have E, F, G sharp, B flat, C, D, D sharp, E. That's an E enigmatic mode. It's just a leading whole tone scale with a flat 2nd. That's called an enigmatic mode. And play it in all keys and just have fun with it. It's a cool scale. You know, in E, I could also play it like this. Oh, sorry, I did. It's a very strange scale. I like it. Analyze it all you want. It's right there. It has two diminished thirds because it has the D sharp E is a diminished third, and then it has the D sharp E F is another diminished third. It's got two diminished thirds in a row even. It's got an augmented third because it has a whole augmented step, whole step between the second note, third note, and fourth note. In other words, the flat second, the major third, and the augmented fourth. Augmented third. It's not a perfect fourth. It's an augmented third. Cool. That's three of the thirds that are weird out of 7, because there's 7 thirds in any 7-note scale, at least diatonic ones or whatever. I think that's true. It's got what else does it have? It has a major third here. Major third on the root. So that's 4 of the thirds so far. It's got a major third here between the major third and the augmented fifth. That's number 5, and then it's got a major third between the augmented fourth and the augmented sixth. LOL. That's the 6th third, and then it only has one minor third, and that's between the augmented sixth. No, the augmented. No, let's get this right, Jim. Augmented fifth and the major 7th. Minor third. If I do it in thirds, you're gonna have major third. Sorry about that. Major third. Augmented third. Major third. Major third. Minor third. Augmented third. Diminished third. Duh. And diminished third. And then back to the major third. So major third, augmented third, major third, minor third, diminished third, major third. I love that scale for some reason. Yeah, I love this. I can go on and on about that scale. I love it. And I have gone on about it in my head, and I've figured out a lot of cool things about it. It's got an augmented triad in it. That would be based on the fact that the root arpeggio would be a major 7 sharp 5, which is an augmented triad with an added major 7th. So we would have this. It's not major seventh, that would be this. You've got a major seven, it's a major 7 sharp 5. I call it the Die Hard chord. They always play it on Die Hard. You have the let's see if I can pull this off here. Die Hard chord. He's like on the roof playing terrorists with Carl and Hans. He's on the roof with helicopters coming, and he goes. That's the Die Hard chord to me. I named it that myself. No one didn't Google it or anything. I didn't use tabs. Actually, my wife wants me to make a song out of that chord. And I haven't done that yet, so it's on me to do that. What song can I make out of that chord alone? I haven't done it yet. She wants me to make one. That might be it. Almost sounds as weird as the enigmatic mode, doesn't it? And that sounds like it could be that actually could be the song in the enigmatic mode, could be one of the leads. Thanks, guys. I just now thought of that. I'm thinking of this as I'm going. I'll do it. I'll make a song out of that. I won't call it the enigmatic because Joe already called his song that. Okay, that's my first section of my lesson, and since this is my new watch that I got. It's a bookmark, but it's also a timer that tells me how long I've been going without having to look up at the screen. I got this from Barnes & Noble. I've been going 18 minutes, and I like to do half an hour stuff. Either it's lessons or jams. I like to make it happen. So I got more time. So let's do some other stuff. Put the radiator back on. It has to charge up a little bit though. When you turn the radiator off and then turn it back on, it has to charge up. One of the drawbacks of having the best pedal in the world. Thanks, Mattery, for designing it and giving me a copy. All right, now this is a totally unrelated subject, except that it's still guitar. I'm going to talk about three notes per string versus 4 notes per string when you do diatonic scales, and 2 notes per string versus 3 notes per string when you do pentatonic scales. That's not the same as I've been talking about, but it's still music. All right, so there. I don't have my board out, my drawing board, but let's do pentatonics first. A pentatonic scale is actually 5 consecutive notes on the circle of fifths, which means you start with a note, you have 4 perfect fifths, and then a major. Then you have a minor 6th actually to go back around, or you could think of it as 4 perfect fourths and a major third to go back around to that. Oh, that's kind of deep, but it's true. Let's work on that. If I go like this, it's A minor pentatonic scale, all barred on the 5th fret. So that would be a perfect fourth from A to D, and another perfect fourth between D and G, another perfect fourth between G and C, major third between C and E, perfect fourth between E and A, and that is actually the same octave we started with, and so it just repeats perfect fourth, perfect fourth, perfect fourth, major third, perfect fourth. Well, that's 4 perfect fourths and a major third, which make 24 half steps, which makes 2 octaves, which is why you go from 1 fret 2 octaves higher. Perfect fourth, perfect fourth, perfect fourth, major third, perfect fourth. And that's 2 octaves with perfect fourth pentatonics. So when you fill in the notes for the scale, you get 2 notes per string. You get the familiar pentatonic mode 1, box 1 pentatonic scale. All right, fair enough. But that can be any key, of course, and all modes of that. But don't stop there. What about 3 note per string pentatonics? Now you're working with fifths, and there you have 4 perfect fifths, a minor 6 to go back around, and that is 3 octaves, not 2. Let's discuss that. Starting on E, you have a major perfect fifth to B, perfect fifth to C to F sharp, perfect fifth to C sharp, perfect fifth to G sharp. Am I even doing that right? Yeah, I am. And then minor 6 to E. That would be a major, an E major pentatonic scale in fifths. So E, B, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, E. That's perfect fifth, perfect fifth, perfect fifth, minor 6. That makes a 3 octave pentatonic pattern. If you fill it in with 3 notes per scale, you get a scale that is 3 notes per string pentatonic in 3 octaves. So let's do the E major pentatonic. Try again. There you have it. Filling in 3 notes per string pentatonics gives you 3 octaves in your scale. That's not easy to get your head around, by the way. At least it wasn't for me. Now do that with minor pentatonic. Now you have this. Same idea, but now you've got the minor pentatonic scale. So you have okay, guys. See that? Mhm.